Give it up for Jules! Okay, I'm going to start by just clarifying I'm not going to sing or dance or do anything like that, so I'm going to drop it down again. So, not till later. So. Thank you, Papa Ferdy, for those lovely words.
You're welcome.
And Lewis.
Okay.
The first time that I met you, Papa Ferdy, you told me that you met a beautiful woman many years before, and that you knew instantly
that wasn't your wife.
She was the one. I had a similar feeling on my second date with Alexa over a game of Monopoly. I just landed on one of her hotels in Park Lane, looked up and I realised that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with Alexa. Unfortunately, I was moaning about losing at the time, and so she was probably thinking something entirely different. Anyway, good evening everybody, and it's wonderful to have you all here. This area is very special to my family, not least because the church where the service was held earlier was actually a church where my mother was christened.
Wow.
Lex and I appreciate that it isn't the easiest of places to get to, particularly if you've driven down the M5. Some of you have travelled enormous distances, including Dimple and Auntie Murchio from Cebu. Over there somewhere. Drea from Manila. And thanks to the Pelicios and Monsaic families who have travelled, we will never forget what it means to both of us for you all to share today with us. I'd also like to mention May, who's travelled all the way from Ireland. Now, although Alexa may not be technically related to May, they have an incredible bond, and May is part of their family, and it's wonderful to have you here, May. As for the mother of the bride, I will never forget the first wedding that I attended with a letter. Her son John was the groom, and you can imagine my surprise when a letter took my hand, walked me over to the hog roast, sliced off the pig's ear, and pressed it into my hand. Yes, it did feel like a scene from The Godfather. And yes, I was petrified.
It was a warning.
Particularly when I'd previously heard Alexa and Aletta talking on the phone in Filipino, where every word sounds like war has just broken out. But it turns out that that's just how they chat. And the pig's ear was simply a token of endearment. And Aletta could not have been more welcoming or supportive since we first met. I felt like part of the family ever since my first trip to Watford, when I wasn't allowed to leave the house until I'd sung karaoke. Now, those of you that know me well know that this would be bad news for all concerned. And I'd like to apologise to the late Michael Jackson for my performance of Smooth Criminal. Fortunately, Aletta's karaoke skills are better than mine, as is her Scrabble and her cake making. And we have Aletta and Auntie Alice to thank this evening for our amazing wedding cake. actually think it's taller than my wife. The paper cranes that you see in the garden were all folded by Alexa's family back in the Philippines that have said yes to everything that Alexa and myself have asked. So lots of the decorations that you see around. So thank you as well. As for my own mum, to thank her for everything over the years would take a speech of its own. So I'll just say a few words to sum her up. Loving, supportive, caring, musical, creative, and slightly bonkers. Tanya and I have so much to thank you for, Mum, even if we didn't let you loose with the ironing. Now, I'll keep this short for obvious reasons, but as you know, or most of you know, my dad isn't here today, and we miss him every day. He was a very proud man. Who had a quip for every occasion. And I wish he could have said a few words this evening. But I did inherit his work ethic and his hairline. So Lex, you know who's the fan. Meanwhile, Lex's brother can't be here today, but I'd like to say how lucky I am to have a great brother-in-law who had the admirable discipline of holding on to a bottle of whiskey for an entire year so that we could drink it together when I went to Cebu. It's not something I would have done. We're also missing one of my best men, Paul, who will do anything to avoid speaking in public, including having a baby. Lex has also asked me to mention her grandmother and all of her family who have passed away. We know in our hearts they remain alive. So I'm sure that you will all have someone special in mind when I propose the first of two toasts to absent friends. To absent friends. But today is a celebration, thanks to OkCupid, the world's best dating site. Yes, Lex and I met online, which had its benefits. OkCupid. She was able to omit certain things from her profile, like her ever so quiet laugh. And I was able to forget to mention my lack of hair. Our first date was at Gordon's Wine Bar in Embankment. And I remember waiting at the bottom of the stairs and I saw this vision of beauty walking towards me. Alexa managed to get down safely despite the glare of the lights bouncing in my head. I had a great night, so great in fact that when we went ice skating, I failed to notice Alexa stood at the side hating every minute of it. Sorry, Lex. But she got her own back when she took me to meet her family in Cebu. We walked into a room of so many people, I actually thought it was an international convention. But it turns out that all the participants were actually her close family. But despite these minor cultural differences, Lex and I worked from the very start. This is mainly down to her patience and understanding. I do have a tendency to work when others are resting, and I'm surgically attached to my phone. But Lex understood that's who I am. And as a result, I started to make more and more time for us. And the more time we spent together, the more I've realised just how similar we are. We're both a bit OCD. I tidy and Lex retidies. We both love to travel, dance in public, thanks to Jessie, to discover new sushi restaurants. And I'll never forget, on one occasion, she showed me hers, and I showed her mine. Poetry, that is. And another mutual interest was born. But for all the hobbies, the truth is that I just love spending time with her, and I couldn't hope or wish for a better best friend or wife. Which is why I proposed a never to be forgotten moment that was supposed to take place to a backdrop of fireworks at the last night of the proms, but which actually took place in front of a portally. Amazingly, she still said yes, making me the happiest man alive. Which is why, Lex, on this day of 100 thank yous, my biggest thank you of them is to you. And I can't wait to start spending the rest of our lives together. Which leaves us both to thank you all again for your generosity and warmth in the build up to today. Not least Kaz, who's been playing the piano beautifully. And Alexa's church peers for their constant prayers. The bridesmaids all look lovely and have been a great help to Lex. But I'm sure you'll all excuse me if I raise a toast to the most important person in the room. So please raise your glasses to my beautiful bride, Alexandra Davies. Thank you. Now I mentioned that one of my best men, Paul, is absent without leave. So please give a generous, warm welcome to the other half, who has courageously agreed to step in. Sadly, you can't believe a word he says, but please be kind to him anyway. Shuey, it's over to you.